This is the video response to Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks and her video on Elliot Rodger and Roosh from the pickup artist community. Now, before I begin, I just want to say I don't really know Roosh. I'm not a PUA, but I think she's taken a lot of what he says out of context after reading the article.
The Santa Barbara shooter unfortunately does have a number of supporters, people who feel sorry for him, people that are empathetic, and it's sick to know that that's the case, especially when you have certain websites that are not necessarily encouraging his behavior, but very understanding toward his behavior.
Now, this is extremely hypocritical coming from a liberal, as you guys like to explain everything away, such as, say, black crime on racism and poverty, and single motherhood, and the poor results of single motherhood on poverty as well. But yes, I am empathetic to Elliot Rodger, the victims' parents, and most of all, Elliot Rodger's parents. The reason I am empathetic is because the guy suffered. That is not to say that the manosphere is excusing his behavior, far from it. It's just, if we are going to play detective and we're going to explain why Rodgers did what he did, then I think reading his actual manifesto is a much more promising piece of evidence than just screaming out white male entitled. The problem is you, Anna, is that Roosh isn't doing that. His theory does not conform with your feminist bigotry, and instead is much more closer to home.
So one example is a pickup artist website. I really considered whether or not I wanted to identify what the website is, and I'm going to go against it. I'm sure you can look it up on your own if you really want to know. But the writer goes by the name Roosh, and here's what he had to say. Here's his commentary on the tragic stabbing and shooting that took place in Santa Barbara over the weekend. He says all these groups, and he's referring to anti-pickup artist websites and feminists, are complicit for creating a cultural environment that allowed this massacre to occur. It is them who must accept responsibility for these 7 deaths and make the moral change to their ideologies in order to prevent such an act from happening again. All right, that's...
Okay, first of all, the reason you are not linking to his article, Anna, is because you know you've taken him out of context. Secondly, Roosh did not solely blame feminism or the anti-PUAs. He blamed the lack of societal mechanism that would teach men to improve their chances in courting. This included the likes of the Southern Poverty Law Center and even MRAs. Long story short, basically the MRAs have nothing to do with the pickup artist community, and they reject the material for A Voice for Men.
It's interesting. What is he specifically referring to? Well, he specifies in the following comment. He says, "We live in a society where being shy, normal, or a little awkward is duly punished by entitled American women who have been encouraged to pursue exciting and fun casual sex in their prime with sexy and hot men as a way of experimentation." So let's stop right there. So you're telling me right now that it's okay for this 22-year-old man who went off stabbing and shooting people to death to seek casual sexual relationships, to want that kind of physical activity. But for women to be open with their sexuality and to want to date whoever they want to date and sleep with whoever they want to sleep with, that's unacceptable. That's a product of American feminism that we should be ashamed of and afraid of. And by the way, if you want to have casual sex, who are you going to have casual sex with? If women aren't allowed to have casual sex, what are you going to do? Jerk off in a corner? This kind of bullshit drives me freaking crazy because it is giving this guy a pass. It is basically telling him, hey, you know what? Your action was justified because these women don't want to open their legs to you, and it makes me absolutely sick.
Again, she's taken him out of context. If Anna had continued her quote mine, it would be revealed this. They are enabled by culture to seek out bad boys, this is women by the way, while rejecting the nice guy who is, quote, boring. This behavior continues until they find that they are past their physical prime, whereby the nice guy is put from a Spartan sexual existence and experienced to keep his mouth shut when a trickle flow of informational torture reveals that his bride-to-be has experienced more than a dozen different penises in her vagina, anus and mouth. The same mouth that is supposed to kiss his future children goodnight. What Roosh is getting at here is that the sexual game is skewed and has been skewed since the sexual revolution, in favour of those very few men who are confident and can attract. The shy guys who work hard and are ignored until they have a career and some money as well. At that point, women select him only for the financial stability and the ability to have a family. It's a sort of usury. And as for the multiple sexual partners of women, the more partners a woman has, the more likely chances they have of divorcing them, thus leaving the man vulnerable. So it's only in men's interest to have a partner who hasn't had that many experiences. Not only can this be linked to, say, the sexual revolution, but it also to the welfare state, which allows women to have pregnancy without a man or with a thuggish loser of a man.
Let me give you more. When women have passed their physical prime, they select a nice guy with whom they settle down with the understanding that he is expected to keep his mouth shut when a trickle flow of informational torture reveals that his bride-to-be has experienced more than a dozen different penises in her vagina, anus, and mouth, the same mouth that is supposed to kiss his future children goodnight. Well, I'd like to know how many vaginas you've had in your mouth, Roosh. It's totally acceptable for a dude to do it, but if a girl does it, well, she's just a whore, right? She deserves to get shot. She deserves to get attacked. I mean, the sexual entitlement only applies to men, but when women want to be open with their sexuality, it's not okay.
Yes, because women never feel entitled. Their women's magazines have nothing in them whatsoever about how to attract their prince or how to not look attractive as to not give a guy the wrong idea. There's nothing in that. Secondly, male sexuality is utterly despised. I mean, for fuck's sake, look at the video card of your title. It is sexual entitlement, presumably of males. And this is wrong because Elliot Rodger A did not rape a woman, and B wanted to be loved and wanted. Roosh's article completely contradicts your theory because he linked to numerous articles that criticize the game. Why? Because men who want to have unconditional sex, and if they want unconditional sex, then it is seen as creepy and predatory. Furthermore, Rodger was a virgin and felt ashamed of that. Being a virgin for a man is much more shameful than for a woman. But I will grant you this, there is a double standard when it comes to sex. This can probably be linked to, say, paternity fraud. If a woman has multiple partners, then there is confusion over the paternity of the child. And also having easy sex for a woman may be fair, but is it fair for the taxpayer to have to fund and subsidise, say, the high rate of single motherhood? No, I don't think it is.
And look, that double standard has existed forever. If a woman doesn't have sex, she's a prude. If she does have sex, she's a whore, right? But what makes me so sick is that this guy is writing this almost in defense of what this guy did, and it makes me sick. It's shifting the blame from something that might be legitimate, like gun laws, lack of mental health, what have you, and shifting that blame onto women. Women didn't do anything wrong. How insulting is it to the people who died as a result of that madman? Let me give you more. He said, I've personally interacted with men who functioned lower than him, but were later able to successfully meet average-looking women and achieve intimacy with them. Until you give men like Rodger a way to have sex, either by encouraging him to learn game, seek out a Thai wife, or engage in legalized prostitution, three things that the American media and cultural elite venomously attack, it's inevitable for another massacre to occur.
It's kind of ironic how she's talking about these double standards, and yet Roosh makes a good point. Prostitution is illegal to thwart male sexuality. And no, like I said before, Rodgers didn't rape anyone. He didn't even drive to Nevada to get a prostitute. So where is this entitlement? The guy wanted to be loved.